Hey everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon. My name's Jacob with Last Stop Waterfowl Outdoors TV. Well guys, the other day I did a little video. We've been talking about Sac-a-Lait fishing right now because it is March and the fishing is hot right now here in the South. Specifically where we are, we're talking about South Louisiana, and we've been having some good success this, I guess you could say late winter, early spring right now. But March is the time, guys, where we want to get out there and we want to go after those Sac-a-Lait. We want to go after the bass. We want to start going after those brim as they get ready to spawn here this month and in the coming weeks. So the other day I showed you guys kind of my Sac-a-Lait box. I had some people reach out to me and they said, hey, what do you throw for Sac-a-Lait season? What's your favorite baits, or some of the baits, what your tackle box kind of have in it? And I did a video on that, and I said, hey, I'm going to show y'all my setup in a follow-up video as far as my rod and reel, because that was also a question that somebody asked me, what type of jigging poles do I use? And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I use. If you follow us here on the channel, you watch the videos, you're going to know that you don't really see a jigging pole in my hand very often. So I'm going to show y'all how simple I keep it actually when it comes to my rod and reel setup for Sac-a-Lait and pan fishing here in South Louisiana. And you guys can let me know what you use down in the comments. And you know, I'd be interested to hear if you guys prefer jigging poles, or if you prefer casting to your targets to be able to catch fish, or what are you using? So believe it or not, guys, I go back to my 8-year-old self when I'm using my setup for Sac-a-Lait fishing, meaning that I use a spin cast reel, just a very basic push button reel, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about as I flip this around. So let me flip this camera around and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm using. So I use two types of setup typically. What you're gonna see here is all spin cast type of reels. Now this particular setup I got right here, this is a King Cast Brutus reel, which is an excellent spin cast reel. I think for the money you can pick those up for right around $35, and this is actually a knockoff of it that I picked up off of Amazon. But what you're gonna notice is I like to use these old pistol grip rods for my setup on these rods with a spin cast reel. And on this particular one, the setup that I use is just a jig head. This is a Benoit Performance Baits jig head. I don't know if I can get it to focus. There we go. Just on 4-pound test line. So I keep this for when I'm trying to cover water fast and I'm trying to locate some of those fish. What I'll do is I'll cast that tube jig with that curl tail grub or whatever plastic that I'm throwing that day I want to throw at them. I'll cast that to shallow cover, and I'll go after those Sac-a-Lait by casting to cover, kind of like retrieving it like you would a beetle spin or a like an underspin, or you know, just a spinnerbait if it relates to you bass fishing guys. So I'll use that to locate them. And some days they're really going to be aggressive. Those Sac-a-Lait are going to want that type of presentation, which you guys will probably see in a video that we're going to release in a couple of days. We actually got on some fish that was with that presentation, that style. And then my other setups that I have here, this is going to be some Zebco Deltas. These are some of the newer Deltas from Zebco, just spin cast, 5, 6 to 6 foot medium action rod. This is an old school Shakespeare rod that I got right here. Been having for years. Love that setup. This is an old Berkeley lightning rod setup that I've been having since I was in high school, guys. This is an old one. My dog, it's so old, my dog's done got a hold of it and chewed the cork handle on it. But pistol grip, I like these little small grip setups on my rods. And I do a lot of casting around cover when I'm fishing Sac-a-Lait. Now this is gonna have more of your traditional style, you know, your cork popping afloat around that cover. And that's what I typically will use here in South Louisiana. This setup, spin cast, 5'6" or 6 foot rods, pistol grip or short grip handles. This little Shakespeare got a short grip on it with a spin cast rod, something that casts smooth. And I like to use 4-pound test line. I find 4-pound test line really does well with shallow water attacking that cover. Makes that jig move really natural when you're throwing it out there, that tube jig or whatever plastic you want to throw on a jig head. Just a regular old cork I like the cigar style corks like that. But 4-pound test line on a 1/32 ounce jig head, that's my favorite when I'm fishing a cork setup like this, guys. So hopefully that gives you guys an idea just how simple I keep it. And a lot of people try to get technical sometimes. They try to make it real technical when it comes to catching fish. But it's really, you can keep it simple and have a lot of success, guys. It doesn't get much simpler than that. What I say when I say I go back to my 8-year-old self, what I mean by that is that that's the reels that I started learning how to fish on when I was a kid. That's the rods. Some of these rods are actually rods that my dad bought me when I was a kid, and I still use them to this day. So I keep it real simple, and I go out there and I just try to keep it as simple as possible. 2 types of presentation: popping a cork, and then also a cast and retrieve presentation. And I find that on most days, if the conditions are right, the temperature's right, the water temperature's right, you got a good full moon during the spawn time like right now, then you could get on those fish and be able to have a successful day on the water with one of those 2 presentations. So hopefully this clarifies a little bit of what I do personally. It works for me. May not work for you, or you may like something different, like jigging with big jig poles around the trees. I will do that from time to time, but it's not my favorite presentation. I do have a setup that I got for that I can show you guys. This is a Crappie Max jigging pole setup. I also like the Salters jigs, or jigging rods. I have 1 or 2 of those, but this is a Bass Pro Crappie Max, and this is a 9-foot rod with a little underspin. And I use this from time to time, but typically, guys, what you guys are going to see me using is those spin cast setups like I showed you. So if you like this video, guys, if you find it helpful or you have a comment, drop it down below. I'll be interested to see what you guys use and what you prefer. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. I'd love to see what you guys have to say, and let me know if you like this setup that I use, if you think it's simple enough, or you prefer something else. Let me know down below, guys. Y'all take care.